it is officially a day in the making of basically the entire internet. If you have been on the internet since early 2012, it is a day in the making. If you don't know what I am talking about, Phase is officially completely falling apart. And I don't mean like there's some members leaving here and there, or they're getting another rebranding or something of that sort. Phase is actually probably done. Unless this is like a troll the internet type of scenario, it's just facts. Now, if you don't know what Phase is, Phase was a original Call of Duty clan that basically got super popular from trickshotting and playing a bunch of the classic Call of Duty games. And people like Phase Banks, Phase Adapt, Phase Rug were all in Phase for a very, very long time, and some of them are still in Phase. But over the course of time, there has been a lot of drama. Not only because when you have basically kids who gain fame and fortune out of nowhere and don't know how to manage their money, well, what do they turn to? They don't usually turn to a financial advisor. They tend to turn to substances or alcohol or something of that sort and just blow their money away. And this happened with a couple of them. But the boy himself, Phase Adapt, made his comeback, right? He was one of the OG founders. He went through some harsh times. He blew a lot of his money away, but he got clean. He came back and he started, grinding out content again. And he's probably one of the singular funniest like creators on the internet at this point in time. Just because Adapt was funny back in the day, and now he's just funny, but like we get to see him more outside of the Call of Duty scene, if that makes sense. You can only be so funny while playing Call of Duty because context and stuff doesn't make sense a lot. And basically, recently, or this literally happened yesterday. I just want to let you guys know. So basically, yesterday, every single member of Phase essentially said that they were done and they were leaving the organization. Now, this can be for a lot of different reasons at the end of the day, right? These guys are making millions of dollars, but let me put a little bit of a hypothetical out there for you. If you could make $12 million, or you can be under contract with someone and make $4 million, which one would you choose? That's right. You choose the $4 million option every single time because those are your homies at the end of the day. They're only taking 60%. Like, come on, guys. In all serious talk, though, this is what happens in a lot of these major orgs these days. It's actually a big reason why pro gaming isn't as popular as it used to be. Because back in the day, when you wanted to be a pro gamer, you kind of got free housing and you just had to pay for your food, stream, make content, and then you got your fat bank account check when you won the league. But now these days, you got to pay most of the time. You got to pay for your housing. Even if you don't have to pay for your housing, you still have to. You got to pay your camera crew. You got to pay people to edit your videos. You got to pay your org too. A lot of people don't understand that these orgs and these just organizations in general on the internet are bleeding creators dry. I mean, if we go back and we look at something like the VR or the VTuber space, there's a lot of VTubers that actually talk about this, where they'll join an org because the org will basically brand them and essentially bought their channel for them and make them super big, super fast. And that's great because they end up making way, way more money than probably what they expected. But at the same time, the brand and the org takes a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean 50, 60, 70, 80% of the money that these guys are making is going back into the org. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the exact same way with Phase, right? Like, yes, all of them were a part of Phase, so at the end of the day, if whatever money goes back into the org is money that's going kind of back into their pockets, essentially. But there's also a level where that money isn't actually in their pocket, right? Because the second they leave the org, like what they're supposedly doing, that money's gone. And that's the crazy thing to think about is like, yeah, as long as you're a part of the org, then it looks amazing. It looks like you have millions of dollars and all this stuff, and it just looks great at the end of the day. But you are actually poor. It, like in comparison, in that kind of sounds crazy to say. Like how do you have $3 million and you're poor? You live in a mega mansion in LA. I mean that's the best way I can put it. You know, and I wanted to pull some stuff up here because I wasn't sure how true this was because genuinely I was kind of shocked when I read this. I think even me talking about it, maybe some of you guys are like, man, is this really going on? So let's get into it. You have Banks, aka Old Faze Banks, aka the Old Faze CEO, the OG himself, basically coming out and talking about this. So we're gonna read his tweets, kind of talking about this overall scenario and what's going on. Let's get into it. So, first tweet here. I have nothing to do with what's going on in Faze right now. I left 4 months ago and have moved on with my life. I'm fortunate to see, wishing everyone involved the best. If there's anything I can do to help, I am here. Nobody loves Faze more than me. And obviously, you know, people are always like Faze Banks making Faze all about himself, which I do understand a little bit, being that he is like the godfather, I guess is what you could call him, of Faze. You know, he was the guy who, even in the years where everybody was in like major addiction mode, was kind of holding it up. Him and Rug, like Rug was obviously the one posting the brunt of the content and actually making any money for Faze outside of their teams, of course. But then Banks was the guy that was doing all the stuff behind the scenes and holding it up and like all that stuff. And then he had like allegations against them. I have no clue if they're real or fake or anything. I'm not going to get into that. We're just reading the tweets. So then this is the next thing he posts. These guys had free housing, free filmers and staff, all Faze channels, 0% income shared. Their money and platforms all skyrocketed after meeting me, but I'm the bad guy. None of it makes sense. And like I said above, I'm going to get into all the details tomorrow. So this is one of those things that's kind of yeah, yeah. This is like what we're talking about right here, bro. Like this is kind of my reaction to it, like internally, of course, because one of the things that the Faze members talk about is this free housing is like, yes, they are given a house, but they have to pay monthly rent on this house. They aren't given free housing. You ever wonder why Faze moves so much? It's because they're renting a house, and eventually the owner's like, yo, I don't want you guys here anymore, or they try to move somewhere to look for like more content, essentially. And that's usually what ends up happening with a lot of influencer houses, unless you buy it. Free filmers and staff. This is just wrong. Like, no, nobody is free filming and staffing for free. You know, if these are your basically your founders of Faze, your main CEOs, the filmers and staff is coming out of their pocket, whether it's coming out of the Faze org or it's coming out directly out of their bank account itself. It's still coming out of their pocket at the end of the day because that's stuff they have to put back into the org. All Faze channels, I mean that's true. Like you know, I'm sure they had access to all Faze channels, but I bet they don't have like administrative access, you know, besides like maybe Rug. Like just be realistic, like maybe Rug, maybe Adapt, and Adapt's kind of shaky on that. Love him, but like they've talked about nothing with Adapt being the CEO at all, and 0% income shared. Yeah, that's like outright lie. Because what would be the point in having them as a part of your org at that point, right? Like the point of an org at the end of the day is to make money off of people while promoting the person at a higher level. If you're getting 0% income shared, then you know wait, you know where does that draw the line? And maybe they only consider income like uh Twitch subs or something like that, or maybe Twitch donations is what they're considering income, because most of the guys in Faze don't make YouTube content as much as they make Twitch content. So maybe it's like what they make purely off of YouTube videos plus like donations. But I just don't see how that works, because then Faze would just be poor, right? Like, how do you have free housing by your company that you're living with, but then the company itself isn't making any money? Because they can only make money off of tourneys if they're winning tourneys. They can only make money off of YouTubers and stuff like that if they have a contract saying, hey, whatever you earn, we get a portion of it. So that doesn't make sense. They live in free housing. Like, did the guy they're renting from just like give it to them for free? Did Rug just buy it. I know there was like some talks about that, but I don't I don't know. I just don't think like Rug would do that at the end of the day. It's just really weird. Obviously, there's a lot of comments about people being like, dude, like Banks out here making it about himself and everything, and he kind of is because he's like, "This is so crazy, what's going on," or whatever. I don't see. Let's see if we go to like Lacey's page, right? So like, Lacey. Yeah, he's not even like Faze Lacey anymore because I think that thing happened uh, a couple years ago where he just like took it out of his bio completely. So like this is literally all he tweeted, by the way. Left left at Faze Clan. Huge, no explanation. I'm sure he described it on like his Twitter or something like that, but I bet he's just done. Like okay, Faze Clan. This video right here. This is money. Like if like let's say theoretically, let's say everything that Banks is saying is true and they live here for free and everything, recording this video makes them zero money then. Because all of the Faze YouTube would go back to the org. Like that's the entire purpose of the org at the end of the day. Like this entire short clip probably took a day or two out of streaming that they could have made. And I know this is all like kind of just glazing at the end of the day. It's just kind of being hyper analytical, I guess you could say, of what's going on. But filming like stuff like this isn't a oh yeah we did it in one take. Like no, this probably took them a day, 2 days to film all of this, and then they had to pay someone to edit it. They had to pay people to film it. They had to pay people to set it up. They had to basically lose out on probably like tens of thousands of dollars, by the way, to even do this short clip, and then yeah, and then it just goes back to the org. So it's like, can you blame someone? Like I said, even if you take greed out of the equation, right? Because I think like Adapt is the perfect example of someone who like doesn't give off the aura of someone who is insanely greedy. The question that you have to ask at the end of the day, if you were, if I was in front of you right now and I gave you the choice, do you want to make $12 million a year, or do you want to make $4 million a year and give me $8 million a year? 9 times out of 10, you're going to take the 12 million, even if you're not greedy. Like that's just how it is, and I can't blame anybody for it. They have to record dumb videos where they're losing thousands of dollars. They have to like they have to still donate back to the org. Like anybody who's saying otherwise it is coping. Like honestly, that's the only thing I can think of because we'll use Nade Shot as an example, aka Optic Nade Shot. One of the big reasons he left Optic in the first place is like one, he kind of left Call of Duty in the pro scene, but one of the big reasons he kind of left Optic was because of the fees and stuff like that. Because it's not cheap to be a part of an organization unless you're going out there and your tens uh, or your bolo or your shroud or something like that. Like basically you're your team's MVP. Like you're paying a lot back to the org, and we'll kind of go back to that pro gamer thing where like a lot of people don't know pro gamers. A lot of times they have to pay for their flight, they have to pay for their own hotel, they have to pay for their own equipment, they have to pay for everything outside of maybe housing. So like just imagine how much worse it is for these guys who maybe they don't have to game and stuff like that, but uh, are basically the CEOs of a entire organization. That's a lot of money you're dumping into something to not really get anything in return. Like a lot of them are so big at this point that Phase means nothing. And that's the sad reality behind it. Is Phase means nothing at the end of the day because everything that made Phase back in the day no longer exists. You can still go watch Phase do Pro League and stuff like that, but nobody's watching Phase anymore hit trick shots unless you're actually watching Adapt streams. But if you're just watching all the other guys, like you're just watching day in the life, and at that point they make more money not being a part of the organization. Sucks to say, but I actually I've seen a lot of the Phase clips. Even if you hate on them or whatever, you like them, you dislike them, whatever it is. At the end of the day, they're just people. Like honestly, they're people that got fairly lucky, that and they ran with it, and like there's some respect behind that. No matter how much you like them, dislike them, you think they're cringe, they're not cringe, whatever. You gotta respect the hustle. Like they took like nothing and I mean built it into a multi-million-dollar corporation. Not even just Phase, but their channels in themselves. So respect to all the guys that are leaving Phase or still in Phase or whatever. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of my analytical breakdown of it a little bit. I don't know. It'll be kind of sad to see Phase vanish into the wayside, but I think it was going to come eventually. You know, when they did the Great Purge of Phase, where they kicked like what, like 20 members or more or something like that, it was already kind of leaning towards that, and they got in the organization of Phase in itself got insanely, incredibly lucky with basically pulling like Ron and Lacey and bringing in people that were kind of up and coming back into the organization to boost their content once again. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about today. Just a little bit of Phase drama and what's going on with that. And thank you guys for watching. Have a good night. Peace.